The twins ran that part of London like an iron rod. There was nothing that went on in that East End that they didn't know about. If there was a wrongdoing, get off the manor, because they would come down on you like a ton of bricks.
In 1964, Leonard Nipper Reed was promoted to detective inspector and posted to a police district in the East End. His first task was to break the increasing menace of the Krays.
As far as London was concerned, the Krays were, I'm talking now about the criminal underworld, the Krays were acknowledged to have control of the East End. South London was controlled by the Richardsons. Then there were other areas that were controlled by other people of less prominence, but the West End was always accepted as a kind of a free-for-all. You know, and rather the same way that Las Vegas was with the American Mafia. I was never able really to assess the extent of their financial empire, but I do know that one club in the West End, a statement that I got, said that they were getting £3,000 a week, another said they were getting £1,000 a week. So you can judge for yourself that they weren't exactly paupers.
Supplementing the protection racket, the firm was also funded by large-scale frauds. Long firms, as they were known. The twins relied on sharp-minded men, like Leslie Payne, to run the operation for them. Several bogus companies would be set up to order goods from a number of unsuspecting suppliers.
And then you build it up until you've got about 5 firms or 6 firms you're getting stuff off of. And when it comes to the end, after about 4 or 5 months of accumulating a big credit facilities with them, we say, you close the firm down and you're vanished.
Such operations provided a steady income for the twins and fueled their fantasies of a mafia-style business empire.
I can remember them hurtling around the East End in big American cars, and they had all these kind of hirelings who would drive the car, and if they'd stop outside a nightclub or outside a pub, some of the hirelings would sort of jump out and open the door for them to emerge. It was the films of Chicago-style gangsters that influenced more than the actual stories, so that one had this funny fudge between whether they were modelling themselves on the actors who were playing the gangsters or the actual gangsters themselves.
In 1964, Ronnie Kray finally became headline news. His name was linked with Lord Boothby in a homosexual scandal that was set to rock the nation.
This story was leaked by the police to Sunday Mirror crime reporters. By the next week, we were reporting that the activities of the Kray brothers, but the Mirror didn't dare name them. We were much too frightened of the whole situation, even though there was already in our hands a photograph of Ronnie Kray with Lord Boothby.
Fleet Street and the police wanted blood. The twins threatened to supply it.
While we were sitting at the news desk, a man came up to us and said, "You guys have got to lay off this story. I'm a printer from downstairs. I've seen this story. The word has come through from the East End. You're not to go any further, and you are not safe in this building if you write stories of this sort." And I might say we took that very seriously. There was no way that I was really wanted to get very heavily involved with the Kray gang. Once
you have a kind of world in which violence is legitimated, then fear starts to regulate how people behave, and the Kray twins certainly were feared.
In the late summer of 1964, 2 apologies were printed in the Mirror newspaper, one to Lord Boothby and one to Ronald Kray. The scandal had come to nothing, and the twins' reputation had benefited no end. Nipper Reed's continuing investigations began to flounder. No one would testify against the Krays.
Just as we were about to close the investigation down, a man called Hugh McCowan, who was in fact a baronet, went into a police station in Marylebone and said that he wanted to talk about the Krays. Well, it was well known that I was conducting this investigation, and so this guy was sent over to me. He was a very well-educated man. He was running a club in the West End of London, and the story that he told was that the twins, through a man called Teddy Smith, were trying to extort money from him, a typical protection money racket. He gave a long statement, and also his manager did too, and we found in fact that his manager was the person that gave the more substantive evidence, and so based on that we decided to make the arrests.
We thought we were in for the big showdown eventually, where we would be able to tell all there was to tell. But they were strong enough that they were able to influence witnesses. The case against them became very thin. In the middle of the trial, I was actually in the hideaway club, the club where the blackmailing, the demanding of ministers was supposed to have taken place, and I found McCowan, the key prosecution witness, actually in the club with somebody who was retained at the time by the Krays. So the whole thing wasn't being handled or wasn't under control at all, and the police really had a bit of a thin case.
The manager, who of course was the man that gave the real meaty evidence, had already been tainted. His story to me was that he had been walking around London, and suddenly he'd had a revelation from God that he shouldn't tell this story, that it was a story that was false, and that suddenly when he came to his senses he realised that he was in Valence Road, and he walked into 178, which was the home of the Krays then, and there demanded to see a priest, and so one was brought to him, and then he confessed that the story that he'd given before was false, and that he now wanted to renege on that and give the true evidence.
Again the Krays triumphed. Their position now seemed unassailable. They were all powerful in the East End, they were celebrities in the West End, and now they had beaten the press. Funded by a network of illegal earnings, supported by the villainy of the firm, and protected by the wall of fear and silence they left in their wake, the twins would never be more powerful than they were at this moment.
After the McCowan trial, where I sat through a lot of the trial talking to members of the Kray family, I got my first real meeting with them. I dropped into the Grave Maurice one day, which was their drinking place at the time, and there they were standing at the bar. They were playing the big-time movie gangsters of just being the strong, silent men. But to anybody who was straight, coming from the big world, they really looked pretty stupid. To me, the impression was just that they had nothing to say, so they said nothing. But to the people there, it was strong, silent, powerful men. In publicity terms, they cashed in on everything. When the Boothby scandal broke, the fact that their names got into the papers, apologies and all, were great publicity for them. It showed that they were even stronger than Fleet Street. When they were acquitted in the McCowan case, again, for them it was marvellous publicity, and they made the most of it.
Well, in all clubs you get an occasional drunk, you know, and sometimes have to be slung out, and that's why there's doormen and that, but I suppose it's like clubland all over the world, really. It's just the same as... I don't suppose it can be that bad, as people won't go to them, really, would they?
Ronald, what do you think about clubland in London?
Well, I think most clubs are very respectable, you know, and I don't think there's any trouble at all in them, except occasionally.
Ronald, what are you going to do now?
Well, I'd like to go abroad for a short while, and then I'd like to be left alone.
I intend to get married in the near future. I did before this case, but it's put back over the case, and let's get married as soon as possible, you know.
In 1965, Reggie married Frances Shea. He had courted her since she was a schoolgirl. It was described by the press as the East End's wedding of the year.
Reggie and Frances' wedding was a very big affair. David Bailey was there doing the photography. There was Diana Dawes. numerous people. It was packed.
I think it's the first time I've been invited to a thought-to-be-known gangster's wedding. It's quite an occasion.
Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you there.